So easy, so easy.
My name is Carl Nalter. For those of you who haven't met and hosted before, I work within the EasyProperties team, and today I'm joined by the MD of Block, Jacques Van Embden. Welcome, Jacques. Nice to have you with us.
Hi, Carl. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm going to launch straight into it. And we're going to be talking specifically around 6 on N, which is the very exciting development that your company is doing and that we've currently got listed on our platform. We're buying 5 of those units. But before we talk about that, I'm keen to hear a little bit more about Block. What do you guys do? Is this your first development? Should we be nervous? Tell us about you and Block.
Yeah, so definitely not to be nervous. Our Block is in its 8th year of business. We turned 8 in September this year. And
Awesome.
6 on N is our 12th completed project in the Atlantic Seaboard and the City Bowl of Cape Town. So we certainly have got a huge specialization and a focus. We've over and above that, we've got project 13 and 14 are under construction, and we're getting ready to build project 15 early next year. So we're heavily committed to the Atlantic Seaboard and the City of Cape Town, and we're certainly not going anywhere. And one of the big things that kind of makes Block special is all of the team work and live in the Atlantic Seaboard and the City Bowl in apartments. So we're actively living in what we make, so we really are walking the talk, which is something I'm certainly very proud of. I live in an apartment myself. I don't live in a big home in the burbs. So, we certainly love what we do, and we're in love with great urban areas. So
it's, some fantastic points there, Jacques. Apart from, giving real comfort to investors that Block certainly isn't a fly-by-night in terms of the experience with developments. I love the fact that you are very focused on the area where this development is. And so maybe you can tell us a little bit about 6 on N. I mean, is that Atlantic Seaboard overdeveloped? Do you think we're going to struggle to let these? I mean, why would you do another development?
Yeah, well, I think we spend a lot of time looking at the data and the information behind why we so committed, and sorry, that data and that information is why we so committed to the area. So the Atlantic Seaboard's got some interesting stats behind it. So it's the second densest suburb in Cape Town. The first densest suburb is Langa, which shows you, and it oscillates around all these other formerly township areas and kind of areas that were segregated and underinvested in during apartheid. And then there's this one suburb in there on a density level, that's the Atlantic Seaboard. And it's such a great representation of that. People really do want to live close together. It's exciting, it's interesting, and it's quite intoxicating. So it's got this great density of people living together. The other big thing for me is property is a long-term investment. As I know EasyProperties got some great functionality that allows you to kind of leverage and trade at different points, but certainly bricks and mortar is a long-term investment that we do. And I think when you're looking over long-term, I'm always interested in supply and demand. And what are the metrics that are going to keep supply constrained and will demand continue to be strong? And I think that's where the Atlantic Seaboard, it's just bordered by the ocean on the one side, bordered by the mountain on the other, with really constrained boundaries. And the net result is that to bring new stock into the marketplace is incredibly difficult. If you look at, let's say, in other markets, you've got, let's say if you're in Durban North, you can continue to climb up the coast. Or if we look what happened in Johannesburg, the joining of Pretoria and Johannesburg, and then the merging of Midrand and Fourways, and kind of that spreading out. The Atlantic Seaboard doesn't have that option. It's actually a very, very limited area. And then the other pieces in terms of demand, it's just, Sea Point was voted a couple of months ago as one of the top 50 most interesting suburbs in the world. It's a huge tourist destination. It's got a huge amount of residents because of that density. And that just drives being somewhere desirable. And if you can choose, you want to live somewhere that's going to make your life interesting, better, healthier, simpler. And that's kind of what, as you ratchet up on the choice, that's what you're looking for. And the Atlantic Seaboard offers that. So we just don't see demand tapering off. And we're one of the few developers that's able to make projects work here. You're looking at our population in the Atlantic Seaboard should grow at about 4%, 5%. And the amount of new apartments coming is less than 1. So it just shows that as long as you're growing, and that's going to be great for pricing pressure, and that's both going to be on the value level, and it's going to be really strong and robust on the income levels as well.
Fantastic. Loads of useful information there for investors. And again, loving your point around making your life more interesting. Tell us a little bit about 6 on N. I mean, are these straightforward, same old apartments, different amenities, communal spaces? How have you guys envisaged that?
So I think I'll start off with the apartments themselves. So the transaction that we've teed up with EasyProperties was for 5 studios. Studios are an excellent investment option because the income on a studio is extremely similar to a 1-bed, but the capital cost of the studio is 25% less. So you end up in a position that you be 5% less on your gross incomes, but you're 25% less on your capital. And that really translates through to a great yield. So in terms of the specific units that have been chosen, there's a lot of research that we've done into it. So there's like great websites like AirDNA that you can analyze the whole world's net incomes on the gross income, on the short-term leasing model. And it's a really great way that we can project and plan out and give our investors or anybody that buys from us good confidence in that this is the nightly rate, this is the occupancies. Then when we zoom into the apartment, something that we obsess about at Block is we're very obsessed with making functional apartments. That's a lot about micro design, joinery, how things work together, how your kitchen stands next to your dining area, next to your lounge. And we invest a lot more money than I'd say the broad average on trying to make sure that the apartments work and are functional and have got spaces for storage, for the broom. Our studios have got a washing machine. Our studios have got a wet point, and you can choose what you want that to be. They've got oven, they've got microwave ovens, and they've got great hobs, beautiful kitchens. We love cooking. Cooking, we think, is, it's something I feel that the world's obsessed with, but certainly South Africans, we've got such great produce and we're all got so many great options to cook. So we really invest a lot of time and effort in making high quality units, and that's across all the types. I just think that studios are a really high quality investment option. So that's looking on the apartments themselves. And I think just as a kind of an ending off comment, you pay per square meter most of the time when you're looking at apartments and that's kind of the world over, or square foot or square meter or square yardage. And that's kind of how you buy. But what's harder to understand is how well has the developer designed each of those? Because you can get 35 square meters or 40 square meters, and 40 square meters badly designed can work like 30. And 35 square meters really well designed can feel more like over 40. So not every square meter is the same. And, if we use a quick metaphor, go into cars, you get 1 2-liter engine and another 1.6-liter engine. The 1.6, if it's really designed well and functions well, it's going to give you more power and more torque and more engine power coming out of a much smaller engine. So that's kind of, if you think about apartment design, it's a great relative way to kind of understand it. Then the building itself, we love the common properties in our building. So this building itself has got great amenities. There's a gym. There's it used to be coin operated laundromats. They now tap, you tap your credit card. So tap operated laundromats. It's got a beautiful deli on ground floor. There's a rooftop space with a beautiful pool. And on either side, it faces east and west. So if you want to watch the sunrise, you want to watch the sunset, you kind of have both options, which is really great. And we love giving some of the roof and the views of the Atlantic seaboard, which is a big part of why we live here, over to the building. It's also got, specifically for the short-term leasing market, there's baggage storage rooms, there's a concierge office, there's also storage and facilities on site for the staff that service that. So you don't want to have your cleaning staff that's kind of having to carry in luggage in and out, carrying bags of linen and goods and soaps or cleaning products. So that's actually all directly accessed via the basement into a room with facilities, bathrooms, kitchenettes. So it's trying to plan a building for the future. And modern buildings in modern suburbs have to work a little bit harder because they're going to be used in really modern ways, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, I love listening to you, Jacques, and I'm really pleased with our EasyProperties team, because not all properties are created equal. And, when you engage with a developer like you and a development like this, you can really see how it sets itself apart from just run of the mill. I am a little irritated with you that you've only let Rupert and the team buy 5 apartments. I don't know if I need to shout at you or at Rupert as an investor, because I think you've got 87 in this particular development. Is that right?
Yeah, 87, and you guys took the last ones. So I think that's why you got what we had. You got the last units. There's 1 2-bed left for sale, but that's kind of more orientated towards its design and pricing towards a owner occupier. It's high up in the building, and so but that's one left. But it's sold amazingly well. And what's really great is that for the buyers that invested 2 years ago, they've been reselling. We've done 11 resales in the building, and 2 years later, the resale pricing is somewhere between 10 and 15% above the original price.
Yeah.
And for me, 6% capital growth per annum is a great figure. It's a great result. If you can have an asset that can grow at 6-7% and bring in strong net yields, that's like a great combination. I think the studios are kind of in the 8-9% range projected yields. So if you can get a really strong net yield and capital growth, normally you have to choose. So let's say some of the kind of downtown Joburg CBD options, they're good yielding, but they're not good capital growth. Whereas let's say you'll go into 4 ways and there'll be good capital growth options. And you're kind of always having to pick or choose. What these studios specifically offer is that quite hard to find combination of great yields and capital growth.
Yeah, I think it's very well put. I mean, I love the fact that we've got EasyProperties as part of the mix on Easy Equities, because I'm totally with you in terms of the medium, longer term investment. And whilst we do have auctions, it really is just somebody absolutely needs the liquidity at a point in time. But, you know, we really would want people to hold those investments. I hope that that Rupert and the team are being nice to you, and for your numbers 13 and 14 that you're developing, that we can get some more units from you. Because as I say, as an investor, I love it when you talk about all these high yields, particularly when interest rates are going up, and I think everybody else is really struggling, people who are buying to let in a traditional kind of a way. And it takes me to the next question that I want to ask you around the size of your properties and the way that you're designing them. Mm-hmm. Because people, you know, often would say, well, I must rather buy than rent from somebody. Mm-hmm. And I find it quite interesting that maybe you're bringing that closer together in this development because of the way that the units are sized and priced. So somebody that might only have been renting before is now able to buy, and it's going to really enable us on the other side of the market to get lots of tenants easily to fill the building. Mm.
I think it's one of the things that we're seeing change in the marketplace is people are choosing. We come from a historic culture of very low petrol prices, very low electricity prices, large properties, pool, garage, garden, and that was kind of the thing that you used to work to. But as we've kind of post-democracy and everyone's included, and we're working to try and include as many people into the economy, electricity's gone up, petrol costs have gone up, traffic shot through the roof, and so suddenly that big home has gotten quite a bit more expensive, not only to purchase, but just to maintain and upkeep. And there's substantial costs that go into that. And then the time cost of money is growing for so many people in this country. It's one of the greatest pain points is how much our population spends in time and financial means in transport. And what we're seeing is people starting to make the change. They say, I'll take smaller in an area where I'm close to work, close to lifestyle, close to action, but because I'm going to live in the suburb that I live in. I'm not just going to live on my property. And I think that's made it suddenly more affordable, and they don't have to spend the money on high amounts of petrol each month. They get all that time back to go to gym, spend with their kids, work, you know, if it's a gig economy, get a little bit more work hours in each day. So you've got those great options. And we've, as I said, when we spoke about that 1.6 engine, we really want to try and make it as accessible as we can. And that's going to be accessible for renters, and it's going to be accessible for purchasers equally so. And I mean, I just think, obviously I'm biased because I live in the Atlantic. I didn't grow up in the Atlantic Seaboard. I grew up in another area, but I moved here in 2011. This was before the My City bus. This was when there was still quite a bit of upliftment work that had to happen in the Atlantic Seaboard. And to see how it's changed, the quality of life here is just extraordinarily high. And I think a lot of it's the public assets, it's the promenade, it's the mountain on the back door, it's the ocean and the beaches. It feels quite cosmopolitan. There's tourists always throughout the year here, and that really makes it desirable. And that's what's going to really drive those returns. And that's kind of harping back to that supply demand. I just see the demand to come into the Atlantic Seaboard, into Cape Town. I just see those trends continuing for many years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people who do want to work from home or a hybrid model, I mean, have you got facilities for that in 6 on N as part of the design?
So there's a couple of ways that we've approached that. The first one is every single apartment has a micro office. It's nothing huge, it's nothing big, but it's a space, because my pet hate is when you have to put your workspace on your dining table, as an example, because, you know, that's kind of where family should happen, or quiet time, or eating and meals, you know. So it's my worst when people is like the dining table becomes the office, which is one of the work from home solutions that we have to face. Got to make sure there's good lighting above it, and there's power banks or power supply close to it. So that's the one part that we've done. Alternatively, in the rest of the building, there's a mini meeting room. That's for like 2-3 people, and then a bigger meeting room that's for 6 to 8 people. And those are available to book for the residents of the building. So that means, and I mean, we all get tired of being in the same space for too long, whether that's at the office, whether that's out, whether that's at home, whatever it might be. So it's really nice to have those other options. And if you do need to have a meeting, which is, I think, one of the challenges, that we still do have face-to-face meetings, even if you're in a work from home environment, where can you actually do that? And coffee shops are great for some things, but other times you need privacy, you need a little bit of quiet focus time, you might need a TV screen to present on. So we've added those 2 spaces into the building. And there is also a laptop bar tucked away in another space that's also quite a bit quieter. So you can go sit there, plug your laptop in, bash through some work if you feel like a change of location. And so we've really accommodated that into the design. And I think that's going to become the base standard, certainly in all of our projects, because, you know, I think it's more than work from home. I call it work from anywhere. And I think that's going to be the consistent trend, because working from home is not always practical or possible, and for some industries it's right, and other industries it's more challenging, but I think there's a lot more places to work from today.
Yeah. Jacques, where did your passion come from property? I mean, did you train in this? Have you learned it over the years? I mean, you talk about it so passionately and so knowledgeably, and I love the fact that it's practical as well, you know, using your own experience. You don't want to have a maker workstation. There needs to be a space where you can work. So yeah, tell us a little bit about how that happened.
So I actually, ever since I can remember as a little kid, I always wanted to be an architect. So I finished school and went into architecture at UCT and finished my degree. So that's where my passion for design, for cities, for how they work kind of really comes from. And it's my formal education. Unfortunately, I graduated. Fortunately, I graduated. The timing was unfortunate. I graduated at the end of 2008, and 2009 was looking for a job. It was the global financial crisis, which really specifically hit the built environment. So any type of construction, civils, commercial, retail, industrial, there was just a total lack of project opportunities, and that impacted the architectural industry as many others in the built environment. And after that, I kind of fell into property by mistake. Did some property in kind of some commercial work in the commercial properties, doing some design, then helping people figure out how to rent spaces, cut spaces up, and really that kind of the property journey I kind of slipped into in 2010, and 2014, end of 2014, we launched Block. So that's really it was not by design that I ended up in property, but definitely by design that I was an architect. And it's a great education to bring into the property world.
Yeah, and it impacts us so much, you know, the way that you're building these buildings in a city is impacting us and people for years to come. Yeah, I'm keen to have you just talk to people who don't know the area that well, where it's positioned, this particular development of yours within the Atlantic Seaboard. I mean, are people looking at the sea? Are they on the beach? Are they way back? Yeah,
absolutely. So the Atlantic Seaboard kind of starts on the edge of Cape Town CBD, and Cape Town CBD is one of the smallest of the 3 major metros, like substantially smaller than Durban and Johannesburg and Pretoria. And it basically runs along the Atlantic coastline, following a really beautiful promenade all the way through to Camps Bay, which is quite a well-known global kind of space to visit. So people kind of identify that, and Camps Bay's got a beautiful beach. So sandwiched in the middle of that is a suburb called Sea Point, and that starts right on Beach Road in front of the prom and goes all the way back up to the top of the hill where Lions Head and Signal Hill are. And that's kind of, it's sandwiched between the ocean and the mountain. This property specifically, there's a piece of flat, which is from Beach Road until Main Road. And then from Main Road, there's a steep escarpment up to the top of Lions Head and Signal Hill. This property sits in the flat section, and it's halfway between Beach Road and Main Road, which is amazing because it makes it incredibly walkable. So there's a whole bunch of really beautiful tree-lined roads that link Beach Road and Main Road, and they're very quiet roads, beautiful big trees in those spaces. And so 6 on end straddles between two of them, Norfolk Road and Wisbeach Road. And it's got outlooks that's a northwest facing and a northeast facing direction that the building faces on that side. And it's got on the upper levels, you've got some ocean views and some Lion's Head views and some Table Mountain over the saddle where it kind of pokes its head through. So kind of from level 2 and 3 upwards, you start to get the views, and 5 or 6 is really beautiful views. And certainly on the common area on the top, there's great ocean views and great mountain views, which is, as I said, we love sharing that with all the people in the building. And then it's walkability. It's down the road from a bunch of shopping centers, great restaurants, great cafes and delis. It's 150 steps until you're at Beach Road, and once you're at Beach Road, there's 4 or 5 beaches within walking distance. There's the promenade, which is amazing as a resource. And you kind of, if you turn right, you probably got a 10-minute walk, and then you're at the urban park, which is another great kind of public facility that we have in the area. So that's kind of its location. And I think that's the appeal is a walkable city. You know, the concept of, they call it the 15-minute city, which is very pioneered as a European concept in France and Barcelona. And it's about saying that in a 15-minute walk, you should be able to get all of the regular daily components of your life in. So that's seeing friends, going to school, going to work, getting shops done, going for a coffee with a mate, getting a beer at the end of a long day, you know, watching a game of sports or the soccer World Cup that's on now. So that's kind of that real concept of it should all be close together. You've got to go to a dentist, a doctor, a physio, you know, you want all those things close. And that's what really makes a suburb kind of have texture and excitement. And one of my favorite things is you can tell a really great suburb by the experience of the kids and the elderly. And that for me is, you can always tell. So if there's lots of kids running around in the area, having fun, and there's things for them to go to, parks, creches, events, kind of, or play spaces, whatever it might be, that means that they can have a really great, safe, fun, experienced life. And then the other one is the elderly. Are there places for them to go and have a coffee? Are there communal facilities for them to do? How does the public transport work for them? So when you see that in the Atlantic Seaboard and Sea Point, it's why it has that kind of cross demand. It's not appealing to a certain segment. You've got from, you know, the full-blown empty nesters, like the elderly, all the way down to young families with their kids. I mean, I live in an apartment with my little 4-year-old boy, and he's got the biggest garden in Cape Town, which is the whole promenade, you know. So it's a great place for all different life stages to happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And Jacques, is this property developed? Is it ready to move in? Are you guys finishing off? What's the timeline?
Finishing off in the next 2 weeks, fingers crossed. We get all of the final certifications and everything done. The units are busy. I think your units have already been furnished, and we're hopefully going to get the building occupied in the next 2 weeks. And then we're going to be setting it all up ready for transfer to yourselves, hopefully kind of end of February, early March, and make sure that it's income producing and with great short-term management companies, sectional title management companies, and all the various contractors that make these buildings successful.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I always try and get in first in the investments with our new properties. So I'm already invested in 6 on end, but we've just paid out some dividends. And not only your passion, but I just think all the sound economic reasons you've mentioned, it's a no-brainer for me that that's where I'm going to put my cash. As I said, I'm irritated that we only have 5 units, so please make sure we get lots more in your future developments. And happy birthday to Block that you mentioned. Happy birthday to your boy that's celebrating a birthday. Good luck with finishing off. Have a great Christmas. And on the one hand, I hope you do run out of properties in and around Sea Point so that you can get going elsewhere in the country for us. But until you do, yeah, wish you lots of luck, and thank you for having the EasyProperties investors as part of this exciting project. We really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
And thanks to the entire EasyProperty teams and yourself, Carl. I think it's an amazing business, and I was hiking the other day, and someone walked past and they were like, "Have you heard of EasyProperties? I think it's so easy." And so it's great to see how many people are accessing it, and it's such a great way to get more of the population involved in the property market. So congratulations to you guys as well.